Welcome to Teaching TJ. On this episode, we're going to be discussing our pregnancy journey with TJ because it was extremely challenging and all pregnancies are different anyway. Secondly, we'll be discussing what led up to us deciding to get TJ assessed for ASD.
So the first thing I guess we'll let everybody know is that TJ's due date was the 8th of February 2016. However, he was delivered via emergency GA C-section on the 27th of December 2015.
Yeah.
So he was approximately 6 weeks premature.
4.5 pounds, so he was tiny. You can fit him in one hand.
Literally.
And it's safe to say, I just wasn't ready. Like, we hadn't started buying pushchairs, car seats, even, baby clothes yet. Nappies, none of that.
And that's not because we wasn't organised. We just thought that baby's due February, January sales, makes sense to just get everything in the January sales. However, baby had a different plan. So just to give you a bit of an overview, I was contracting from 18 weeks of pregnancy. So we was on labour ward when we was only 18 weeks, not even fully aware that we was having a baby boy. The pain that I was experiencing in my back was absolutely excruciating. I do have a pre-existing spinal condition called syringomyelia, which was from a car accident that I was in 2012. So at the time, my consultant neurologist did explain to me that because I didn't have any children then, later on in life when I did want to have children, pregnancy is something that I could find quite challenging, just in terms of carrying baby and the birth, because I'm not allowed to have an epidural because of where the injury in my spinal cord is, and the effects of an epidural and the fact that syringomyelia, I already get functional paralysis. So it was just decided that any pregnancy, it would just be a GA, general anaesthetic cesarean section, which unfortunately means dad can't be present. I am literally just by myself in theatres. We was prepared because that we'd been through that with Caleb Gianni, our eldest, anyway. What we wasn't prepared for was the contraction so early.
Sure. I mean, Caleb, as a pregnancy was like clockwork. Everything that we were supposed to go to, all of the consultations and everything else, it went swimmingly. But like with TJ, like we were constantly in hospital. So
literally, I had hyperemesis both time rounds. Second time round with TJ, I think it was a bit worse. I was kind of intolerant to everything, absolutely everything. Water, I was on a drip just for them to be giving me saline, literally, because I couldn't even just drink a glass of water without bringing it back up. And then eventually they decided to give us an MRI scan because the pain and agony that I was in and that I was describing, considering that the growth, the size of baby, the size of myself, my water retention wasn't very much, but I literally had felt like I had just been in my car accident all over again. So they decided to give us an MRI scan. And that's when we had discovered that the reason I was in so much pain is because the position of the baby at the time and the way that he was growing, he had torn discs in my back. And then the discs that were torn were then resting on nerves. That was just setting off all kinds of crazy pain, nerve pain that I was experiencing. It was just horrendous.
Lots of discomfort.
Literally. But even more shocking to us was when they let us know that as a way of pain management and moving forward with the pregnancy, I was allowed to have morphine. Now, morphine is something that I have outside of pregnancy for pain management for my syringomyelia. But again, very much aware that paracetamol, I believe, is the only form of pain relief that you're allowed in pregnancy. And even that, they really don't even like you to take that at all. So very conscious and aware of the fact that anything I'm taking is going straight through to baby. So it wasn't a decision that we made lightly. However, given how early the pregnancy was and the fact that they couldn't deliver him with us being assured that baby would be safe, mum would be safe, we just decided, you know what, let me just take the morphine and see if I can get through this as best as I can. So that's what we did. So after the first 24 hours of TJ being in SCBU, which is special care baby unit. That was very challenging within itself because we was trying to breastfeed, obviously have skin to skin, and just bond with our newborn for the first time.
When she says we was trying to breastfeed, it was just her.
I attached some things to him. I was obviously trying to breastfeed and bond with baby, which was challenging, obviously whilst recovering from a cesarean section at the same time. But we was discharged home from hospital, I believe it was the 29th of December, so a few days away from New Year's Eve. And again, we was having challenges at home because I had to be going back and forth. So Rocky would have to take me back to the hospital so I could feed TJ, spend some time with TJ, and then we'd obviously have to come home because we had Caleb at home.
Yeah.
All of that was stressful. It put me under a lot of depression. I did suffer with postnatal depression. They actually readmitted me back to the hospital, but we stayed in a room within the special care baby unit so we could be even closer to TJ. And also, they explained to us that because he was literally there to just be on a heated mattress, so that as he's growing older, he starts to retain, he gains more weight, so his body temperature will start to go up. So they said that, we could basically be placed in a room and he would be in the room with us, which was amazing. But the sad thing about that was it was just myself and TJ, so then Rocky couldn't stay with us. He would have to go home to look after Caleb. So that was very challenging within itself. I think we stayed in hospital probably for about a week in total after me being readmitted. So Taylor J in total, he didn't come out until he was, I believe he was 38 weeks, his official term time. He would have been 38 weeks at that time when he got discharged from hospital. New Year's wasn't great for us because we was back and forth from home and the hospital.
The celebrations we had planned were out the window.
Totally. No rum punch for me.
No
rum punch for me. But yeah, and TJ, as he was growing older, he started to, everything was fine. The only time we started to notice setbacks, as it were, kind of from the age of 1, which is where you should be noticing certain developmental targets that children and milestones that they should be achieving and hitting. But for us, obviously, at the age of 1, the first thing that changes with babies is the milk that you give them. So we noticed a change in his diet because TJ was totally intolerant to whole milk dairy, wasn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Anytime we would give him a bottle, he would literally just throw up straight away, projectile vomit everywhere.
But it was the kind of vomit that also looked like cottage cheese, like it had curdled in his stomach.
Awful.
So again,
we'd never seen that before.
No. But it also was the morphine that we were saying.
We
was
was
that
convinced.
Creating him to have bad guts, or what was it?
But we was told no, it couldn't be that, Mum. Everything's fine. And to be fair, to this day, it's not been confirmed, but logic and common sense just says to us the fact that currently today he is 5.5 years old and under the gastro team at St George's, which we'll go into that on another episode sure. With you to let you know how that came about. But we just want to give you an overview that we didn't notice any changes with regards to his development and stuff until sort of around 12 months.
I was going to say, it seems that we're going into the subject of why we are going through the assessment.
Yeah.
So with that being said, me in particular, I have quite a great deal of knowledge when it comes to autism anyway. So this is stemming from myself having a child from a previous relationship who has classic autism. He's affected rather profoundly by it. He's 13 currently and is non-verbal. He does communicate with some Makaton sign language. He uses PECs and body language in order to communicate. But as I say, he's rather profoundly affected. So this is where my experience with autism stems from. Subsequent to that, I was working in schools, sometimes one-to-one with children who are on the spectrum. And, you know, with that being said, I recognize autism quite easily. At this stage of TJ's life, when he was 12 months old, I still was optimistic that, you know, maybe it was his...
global development delay, you thought?
Well,
maybe?
that's what I was thinking because of his premature birth. A lot of the times when a child is born prematurely, they can have some global delay, i.e. they will walk a little bit later, speak a little bit later, and so on. But with TJ, he seemed to be not as advanced as his big brother. And I'm not talking about his big brother with autism, I'm talking about his brother who is neurotypical, Caleb. And again, Caleb is from both of us. And, you know, I was expecting a similar progress pattern with between Caleb and TJ. And TJ seemed to be a little bit delayed. So again, at that point, you know, I was really being observant and vigilant as far as TJ's progress and hitting his markers went.
So TJ had been referred to speech and language therapy, which at the time when we went, the speech and language therapist didn't feel it was appropriate for him because he was able to, for example, identify his colours, identify certain animals. It was just that his speech wasn't very clear. And again, we didn't think it was just a case of him not being able to pronounce words and construct his sentences correctly. We could tell from his behaviour that there was a bit more to it than that.
Yeah. He was clearly stimming in certain circumstances. Some of his traits screamed out autism to me. And I was pretty certain at that stage that he was on the spectrum somewhere. As a parent, you want to be 100% accurate in your claim. You don't want to say something that is untrue, especially, oh, my son's got autism, so... And then the son grows up thinking he has autism if he doesn't. So, you know, this is not what we planned out. We were identifying certain things that led us to believe that he was probably on the spectrum, and that an assessment was probably the right thing to do for him.
So yeah, we went back to our GP, and again they made note of family history. You actually received a diagnosis, didn't you?
I sure did. I think it was 2017, and I was 38 years old at the time. I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, which is a type of autism. Upon receiving that diagnosis, I was like, okay, so it just led me to believe that autism was something that is hereditary. I mean, you know, the scientists always claim that it could be hereditary, but this one kind of, you know, nailed the nail in the coffin on this one, because obviously I have a child from another relationship who is profoundly on the spectrum, and I have another child from this current relationship who is, you know, mildly affected, if anything. So with that being said, you know, we wanted to get 100% concrete, you know, diagnosis that this was the case. Yeah,
and more so for TJ's sake. Obviously, he's at an age now where he is in school, so it's important.
At mainstream school at that.
Yeah, he goes to mainstream school. So for us, it's more about identifying the support that he would need in order to be able to cope with his academic studies. Do you know what I mean? Because we realise and we recognise that he has a very creative mind. He loves to draw, he loves to sing, he loves to dance. So the creative side of him we know is there 110%.
But another thing that he loves is repetition, which is another trait of autism.
Yeah.
So, you know, among all of the highlights, there were other highlights that were confirmations of our fears, you know, so that was also a little bit difficult for us to take on board, but, you know, we were confident in the fact that throughout life we would be able to support Taylor.
Absolutely. isn't it?
Asking for his birthday.
TJ, when's your birthday? TJ, look at mummy. When's your birthday? When's your birthday?
Ava.
No. When's your not your brother or sister? How old are you?
5.
Good boy. When's your birthday?
What?
It's the 27th of December.
When's your birthday? Say December. Look at me, TJ. Not the phone. Look at mummy. Look at mummy.
Thank you.
When is your birthday?
Caleb.
No.
TJ.
Listen to what mummy's saying.
Is
Listen
your
in.
birthday?
January.
January.
So when's your birthday? December
December.
the 27th.
The 27th.
Good boy. So when's your birthday?
TJ.
Look at mummy. When's your birthday? December
December.
the 27th.
The 27th.
When's your birthday?
Caleb.
You teach him another time.
Yeah. Good
TJ, can
boy.
you count